But me, your man, Louie T, welcome to my continued coverage of the 2022 NFL offseason. We're now in the final stages of the combine, days 3 and 4. We will recap what took place as the defensive line, edge rushers, linebackers got on the field in day number 3. And to wrap up the combine, the DBs hit the field. And with all the speed that we saw in day number 1 with those receivers, and hell, even some of those tight ends, it was imperative that the DBs showed up and showed out and ran fast, and that they did. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But we will start with the defensive line, edge rushers, linebackers, and what they were able to do in day number 3. I want to say something. I made this point before yesterday when we broke down day number 2, and I thought the numbers were inflated. I think there is something going on there with some of these times. I do not think these times are accurate. However, these guys are fast. I want to reiterate this point because I'm not trying to say that these guys aren't fast. You can look at a guy and tell when he's running fast, okay? You know when you see fast, you know when you see it on tape, and you just want those guys to confirm it at the combine or at their pro day. You know when you see fast when a guy's out there running a 40 and you're like, okay, he's running fast. He's motoring down that line. So I don't want to sit here and act as if these guys aren't running fast. I just don't think some of these times are as accurate. That said, the receivers were fast. These DBs were fast. These defensive linemen and linebackers were fast. So let's get to day number 3. And let me say something else too. And you know what? I'll save that for the podcast tomorrow. I don't need to really harp on that tonight. Day number 3 of the combine featured the defensive line, one of the deeper groups in this draft. And it feels like I'm saying that about every position. One of the deeper groups in the draft. Said that about tight end. We've said that about wide receiver. Now we're saying it about the defensive line. We're going to say it again about the edge rushers. Linebacker is a lot deeper than it usually is this year as well. Defensive back, so forth and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. So this defensive line, though, I'm going to be honest with you. The defensive line, if you want to add the edge rushers in there as well, it's the deepest group in this draft. Top to bottom, there's talent. You can get you a quality player in the 3rd round. You can get you an elite talent in the 1st. You can get you a starter in the 2nd, just like you can in the 4th. It's a deep group of defensive linemen headed by a number of guys, most of them Georgia Bulldogs. And that's a running theme over the last 2 days of the combine, that the Georgia Bulldogs really dominated the combine and showed you exactly why they were the national champions and the most dominant defense in the 2021 college football season. But Jordan Davis stole the show when it comes to the defensive linemen. 7 defensive linemen ran sub 540s, which again, you're usually talking about guys up over 300 pounds. So usually sub 540 is monumental. They made it look easy and simple. No one was more impressive than Jordan Davis of Georgia. The guy is 341 pounds at 6'6", yet he ran a 4.7 840 and a 1.68 split. Let me say this: the 10-second split. I've talked about this with offensive linemen, and I'm going to reiterate it here with the defensive linemen and the edge rushers in particular, more so than the offensive linemen, because you're not really looking for explosion in short bursts from offensive linemen. You're just looking for these guys. You want explosiveness. Trust me. It comes in handy in different ways. But with edge rushers and defensive linemen, it's more imperative that they have that quick burst and have that 10-second split, that get off, because what that shows is the ability to change directions and also shows that ability to have bursts off the snap. And that's all being in the trenches is about: short bursts, rapid short bursts. So the 10-second split is huge for defensive linemen and edge rushers. And Jordan Davis's 10-second split is equally as impressive as his 40 time. At 340 pounds, it's on par with what we saw from Mekhi Becton, but this is, to me, even more impressive because the 10-second split is 1.68. And for a comparison, for something to take into consideration, Aaron Donald, the best defensive lineman we've ever seen in our lives, 1.63 10-second split. So you're talking about a guy that's probably, at his combine, he's probably like 285, was Aaron Donald, maybe 290 max. And he ran, I think a 4.6 something, and he had a 1.67, 6.3 10-second split, which is the most important thing. Jordan Davis is 341 pounds, and he ran a 4.78, but the 1.68 split is ridiculous for a guy his size. He tore the combine to shreds. His vertical was ridiculous. His broad jump was ridiculous. He's just a tremendous athlete. And we saw that. We knew this coming into it. If you watch Georgia Bulldog football, you knew how good this guy was. All he did was confirm that. And I think he's locked up a top 15 selection in this draft. It'll be interesting to see if he can sneak into the top 10. I don't think he will, but I think he'll be gone before you get past 15. I mean, he was that dominant, and it wouldn't shock me if he went in the top 10. When you get guys that dominant at that position, you can do some things and really control the game. We've seen Vita Vea and how dominant and destructive he can be. He's nowhere near the athlete that Jordan Davis is. So it wouldn't shock me if this guy went top 10, but I do not see him getting out of the top 15. His teammate Devontae Wyatt, a guy that I talked about at the Senior Bowl, is the forgotten man on that Georgia defensive front. Trayvon Walker is a guy we're going to talk about a little bit later on. Obviously, Jordan Davis is another name. The linebackers, even Louis Cine in the back end. We talked about so many of these players. We don't talk about Devontae Wyatt as often. And I thought he was one of the stars of the Senior Bowl. Well, he comes to the combine and continues to build that momentum and carry that momentum through towards the pro day. 4.77 for Devontae Wyatt, 1.66 10-second split. So again, the explosiveness, that's the thing we saw at the Senior Bowl, was the explosiveness. That's why guys couldn't stay in front of him consistently at the Senior Bowl. He showed it again on the field during the drills and during the 40. So Devontae Wyatt continuing to elevate his stock in the upcoming draft. A guy that I told you I really fell in love with at the Senior Bowl was University of Houston edge rusher Logan Hall. And he's a guy that at Houston, they moved around a bit, kicked him inside at times. He rushed inside at the Senior Bowl at times and was dominant there. He ran a 4.88, at 277 pounds, at 6'4", running, at 6'4", I think he might even be, 6'5", 6'6". He's a big dude, but, at 277, running a 4.88 with a 1.68 10-second split, he could be problematic at the next level. One of those guys that when teams get into those NASCAR packages, when they start to put all of these rushers on the field at once and they want to reduce a guy inside, which is what I talked about at the Senior Bowl. When you want to reduce a guy inside, he's the kind of guy that you can do it with and have some success. And Logan Hall is another guy that I'm really high on in this draft. He was outstanding again here at the Combine. DeMarvin Leal, Texas A&M defensive tackle, ran a 5 flat, which is a great time for him. He's one of the more chiseled and cut guys. He is in tremendous shape. He looked awesome. Pause. 1.74 10-second split. He's another guy. He won't be a first-round pick. Might not even be a second-round pick. Maybe late second. But he's definitely a guy that you can get day 2. He will come off the board day 2 and feel like you got a hell of a football player. And he isn't one of the top-tier guys, but that next level down, you'll find DeMarvin Leal, and you'll get quality snaps out of him. But the other guy, so Jordan Davis was my 1A, and Travis Jones was my 1B in terms of the two guys that I thought dominated along the defensive line. You know what I'm saying? Remember, Travis Jones was a standout at the Senior Bowl, and you see these guys continuing to build this momentum. Travis Jones was one of those guys, showed up out of UConn, dominated the Senior Bowl. Nobody could block him. You're talking about a guy that's well over 300 pounds, like 320. They couldn't block him. He was bull rushing guys. He was just consistently in the backfield. And then he comes out at 320 pounds and runs a 4.92 40 with a 1.76 10-second split. And on the field drills, his agility was on full display. He's like a big ninja, light on his feet, He's another one of these guys that I wouldn't be shocked if at the back end of the first round someone takes a Travis Jones, because we always see these big guys that look like they have dominant traits sneak into the first round. A lot of times that back end of the first round when teams, are kind of trying to figure out what they want to do, you can never really go wrong by taking a big defensive interior lineman. And Travis Jones seems like one of those guys that would be a solid pick at 31 for someone. You know what I'm saying? But if he doesn't go in the first round, which I don't think he will, he'll definitely be gone early second for sure. I thought he's another guy that really helped himself at the combine and just really continuing the momentum that he built at the Senior Bowl. So those were the guys on the defensive line that stood out to me that was worth mentioning as we transition to the edge rushers. And there'll be another name that I'll mention with this group when we get to the linebackers, because sometimes the combine, they do these weird funky things where they lump guys together with a group where they really don't belong. There was a edge rusher for Oklahoma that was with this defensive line group, and he's clearly an edge rusher, and they had him with the defensive tackles, and so he's running like a 4.56, and everybody else is running in the 4.7, 8, 9s, and over 5s and things of that nature. So they do crazy things. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But with the edge rushers, Amari Barno out of Virginia Tech, lit it up. And I told you that's one of the things that the combine does. It makes stars out of guys that are probably ultimately going to be irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. 4.36 for him. So of course his name was buzzing yesterday with that 4.36. But I thought actually, and then the 1.54 10-second split was ridiculous. But just to give you a framework from which to work with, TJ Watt, you're shooting for the elites in the league. I talked about Aaron Donald's 1.63 10-second split. TJ Watt 1.61 10-second split. So if you're looking to be elite, that's the neighborhood you need to be living in. It's anywhere from 1.6 to 1.65. That's where the elites live. Okay. You start venturing away from that 1.65 and you don't have that elite get off. Now you need other traits to compensate for not having the explosiveness that you look for in these elite edge rushers. So Barno, obviously running a 4.36, the 10-second split was going to be insane. But I thought he was stiff in all of the on-field drills. I was not impressed with him on the field. So again, he ran super fast at 6'5", 246, but I wasn't overly impressed with his movement skills overall. In a straight line, he's ridiculous. But when you ask him to change directions, he didn't look all that fluid to me. Same thing with Kingsley Igbare. I thought he was going to really light it up because he was a guy that really did some damage at the Senior Bowl. 6'4", 258-pound edge rusher out of South Carolina. Didn't really feel the energy from him. Didn't really feel like he was a great athlete like I thought he was. 4.87 40. I don't really kill guys for the 40. Again, when you're an edge rusher, the 10-second split 1.72, not great, but it's not terrible either. I just thought he looked stiff in all of the drills on the field. I didn't see the change of direction. I didn't see the suddenness. I didn't see the things that I thought I was going to see from him. He was a little disappointing on the day, to be honest with you. Obviously, you got the two Michigan guys at the top that are going to hear their names called probably within the top 15. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a top 3 pick in this draft, but his teammate David Ajabo may ultimately be a top 10 pick himself. Hutchinson, 6'7", 260, ran a 4.74, 1.62. So that's the important number. The 1.62 10-second split puts him right up there in the neighborhood with TJ Watt. That's what you're looking for. So that 1.62 10-second split tells you all you need to know. I thought his on-the-field work was excellent. He did nothing but solidify himself as a top 3 pick in this draft. David Ajabo, 6'4", 250, ran a 4.55, which is what you expect. He's a much better athlete. That 1.64 10-second split right in that neighborhood that you need to be in to call yourself an elite, have to call yourself a guy with an elite get-off, potentially. So that 1.64 10-second split is exactly what you're looking for. David Ajabo is a name that I think could ultimately, when we look back on this draft, we say, whoa, that guy ended up being a stud. And there's guys like that every year. You're not quite sure. They're super raw. The numbers don't necessarily blow you away, but you know when a guy has it. And he's got the movement skills. He's got the power. He's got the explosion. He's got the ability to bend the edge and flatten the corner, flatten to the quarterback. He looks the part, does David Ojabo. So he helped himself at the combine. His on the field workout was phenomenal, and he's a very intriguing prospect. Two guys in particular that really sent day 3 a buzz with everything to do with nothing on the field. And, you get this from time to time at the combine where something becomes a story. And so you talk about it. And that's Myjai Sanders and his size, and Kayvon Thibodeaux and him only running the 40. So we'll save those two for last. We'll skip over them. We'll come back to them in their days, or their day in day number 3, and kind of talk about that a little bit. Travon Walker, I thought, was the star of the edge rushers. I thought he killed it across the board, starting with his 40, down to the workout drills, down to the conversion drills where you stand up and you start doing some of the linebacker drills. I thought Travon Walker was as smooth as any of the guys out there at 6'5", 272, running a 4.51 40 with a 1.62 10-second split. I mean, he checked off every single box when you talk about those Georgia defensive linemen and front 7 guys. Walker, I think, is the best of that group, and he proved it, and he continued to show that on day 3 of the combine. I thought he was phenomenal, and I think he solidified himself as a top, 12 pick in this draft with his performance. I don't think he gets out of the top 10, to be honest with you, after what he put forth, how he's interviewed, and, him being one of the leaders of that dominant Georgia Bulldogs defense. I just don't see that guy getting out of the top 10, probably not even out of the top 7. He was outstanding. George Karlaftis didn't run a 40, and I know why. He's not fast. Okay, you can see that on the field. Actually, they gave him the Ryan Kerrigan comparison because they both went to Purdue and they're similar sized. I think that's pretty apt. I think he's not going to be a great tester. He's probably going to run. I wouldn't be shocked if he ran like a 4.8 something, but that's not his game. His game isn't speed. His game is quickness, and his game is anticipation and smarts. And I think you put all of that together, the numbers aren't going to floor you, but his disruption when you watch him on tape, it's impressive. So he's not my cup of tea, is George Karlaftis. That he's for someone else. However, those guys, they play well in the league as well. They find ways to live and survive, and in certain instances thrive at the NFL level. If you know how to play ball, you'll find a way to get it done. He may be one of those guys, but he is not my cup of tea. He didn't run because he's not fast. And so I'm pretty sure he'll confirm that at his pro day when Purdue has theirs down the road. Sam Williams is interesting. This is a guy that I wasn't really privy to coming into the combine, one of the few edge rushers that I didn't really know a lot about going into this mix. Out of Ole Miss, he's 6'4", 261, ran a 4.46 with a 1.61 10-second split. So all the explosion is there. He was one of the faster edge rushers on the day, and I was impressed with him throughout the day. I thought there was a little stiffness in some of his movement skills, but there was explosiveness in every single thing that he did. I didn't love him in the conversion drills when they had him stand up, but as an explosive guy, to get 12 sacks in the SEC with all the talent that you see on a weekly basis, I am somewhat biased towards SEC players. When you put up big numbers or you have a reputation in the SEC, it carries a lot of weight with me. To get 12 sacks in the SEC speaks volumes about his talent. And so that's a guy that I've got some work to do. Now, I've heard there's some red flags with this guy, some off the field issues, some maturity concerns. So those are some things to take into consideration. But if we're just talking about talent, and God-given ability, Sam Williams has it. Now, again, I got to watch the film and see what this guy's all about. But I'm just telling you, watching him on the field and watching him move, the guy is an explosive freak. So there's something there. So I was impressed with him, and now I have some homework to do on Sam Williams. A couple of guys that I think they're a lot lower down the rung. You're talking day 3 guys here, but they could be interesting. D'Angelo Malone out of Western Kentucky, 6'3", 243, did not run a 40. I'm not quite sure why he didn't run a 40, because when I watched him on the on-field drills, super impressed. Thought the guy moved well. He looked explosive. Even in the conversion drills, I was super impressed with D'Angelo Malone. I thought he moved as well as anybody in the edge rusher group throughout the day, and I thought he was one of the best in the conversion drills, and he didn't run his 40s. For some reason, some of these guys, I think they're getting some bad intel as to not running. Maybe they know something that we don't, that they're not going to run well. They're not going to test well in that department. They need more time to try to hone in on their craft, running the 40, whatever the case may be. He looked explosive, similar to the tight end likely out of Coastal Carolina. He looked explosive. I don't know why he didn't run his 40, but he didn't. Same thing with D'Angelo Malone, but he looked good. I'm intrigued by him out of Western Kentucky. And then finally, Dominique Robinson was another guy out of Miami of Ohio, ran a 4.7 240. But he's 6'5", 253, long as it gets at pause. And another one of these guys that was super impressive on the field with his movement skills. So just another guy to keep an eye on as you get into day 3 of the draft. I think he's another one of those developmental guys that may turn into something down the road. So let's now transition from linebacker. Oh, no. I said we we're going to come back to Myjai Sanders and Kayvon Thibodeaux. So let's do that before we move to the linebackers to wrap up day 3. So a lot of the talk of the non-on-the-field work of day 3 was about 2 things in particular. Myjai Sanders' weight, which was insane, and Kayvon Thibodeaux only running the 40 and doing nothing else. So let's start with Myjai Sanders. 6'5", 228 is what this guy showed up at. Are you kidding me? I remember we made a big stink about like Arden Key, who was like 6'4", 6'5", and he was like 232 or something like that. And I think he had bulked up and gotten to like right around 238 or something like that as an edge rusher. And, we talked about how light he was, this, that, and the third. And Myjai Sanders showed up at 228. This was a guy that was at the Senior Bowl at 240. I think it was like 241 at the Senior Bowl. And he cut 13 pounds of weight. And I'm assuming this was done. And I can't confirm this nor deny it, but I'm assuming this was done because he wanted to be faster, right? His game is predicated on speed and quickness. So I'm thinking in his mind, cutting the 13 pounds was going to make him super fast. Well, Myjai Sanders ran a 4.67. He wasn't super fast. And you know what's crazy? And I find myself saying this, and I catch myself as I'm saying it, but this is the new norm now. This is the new world that we're in, and it's a brave new world. And if you can't keep up, you'll get left behind. 4.67 for an edge rusher used to be blazing fast, and it still is fast. It's just not blazing fast anymore. These guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster. And for Myjai Sanders, 4.67 used to be a great time. And it still is a great time when you're 265 pounds. He's 228, okay? If you're going to cut weight to run faster, you better come out here and run a 4.39 at 228 pounds. And he didn't. He looked like a damn receiver running around, okay? Worst case scenario, you could have confused him for a safety, okay? A big safety. But nothing about Myjai Sanders said defensive end, all right? It was a joke that he decided to show up at 228. That raises a ton of red flags, okay? And I don't know, again, if this was done in the name of trying to to be faster. But what you've effectively done is you've forced now people to start asking questions that they would not have asked had you just showed up at 241. And if you would have ran a 4.75 because you were 241, so be it. Okay. But to show up at 228 as an edge rusher in this league, not going to cut it. And so it begs the question, can he put on weight? Can he keep it on? Because he's obviously he's put weight on before. Can he keep the weight on? Is that his natural playing weight? What was his true playing weight at Cincinnati? All right. These are all questions now that you have. And now he's scaring people away at 228. So that was a big topic of discussion, and for good reason, because in this league, in order to stand up at the point of attack, you got to be, you got to have a frame that suggests you can stand up at the point of attack. He's got no sand in his drawers at 228. And yikes. I mean, I was blown away when I saw just how thin he was. And then the other big topic of discussion from this group was Kayvon Thibodeaux. Now, look, at the end of the day, this is all going to amount to nothing, a big nothing burger, if you ask me. I think when it's all said and done, and we look back on this, we won't even look back on this. We won't even be talking about this 2 weeks from now. But Kayvon Thibodeaux decided he's going to run the 40, and do nothing else, which is fine. Guys do it all the time, right? He's not the first. He won't be the last guy to run the 40 and then check out on the drills and say, I'll do it at my pro day. Here's the problem. He was adamant all week that he was going to do everything. He told everybody he was going to do everything. Anybody that would listen, he was going to do everything. Charles Davis said he had a show that he was on, a radio show, and he flat out asked Kayvon Thibodeaux two questions. One about his, the question about his motor. And then the other question was, hey, what are you going to do at the combine? And his direct answer to that question was, I'm going to do everything. So all week long, all the teams he spoke to, Charles Davis in an interview, right before the combine started, his answer was the same across the board. I'm doing everything. He gets to the field. He runs his 40. He's not injured. He doesn't pull up lame. There's nothing wrong with him. He just decides, I don't want to do the rest of the drills. And then his excuse for not doing it made it worse. It exacerbated the problem because it sounded like a guy that just spur of the moment decided, you know what? I don't feel like doing this shit today. I'll do it at my pro day. It's one thing, and Willie McGinnis tried to defend him, and I didn't think Willie did a great job. If he was his prosecutor, if he was his a defense attorney, Kayvon Thibodeaux would have ended up in prison because Willie McGinnis was trying to defend him like, hey, this was something he had planned. No, it obviously wasn't, unless he planned on lying to everyone and then deciding to not do anything else after the 40. Either way, he said that the drills were too spaced out, that he wanted to show his, talents on the field and then his conversion drill talent in the linebacker drills all at the same time. That's exactly what happened. He claimed, and Willie McGinnis kept talking about they changed the schedule. What are you talking about, guy? This is all I can tell you. It'd be one thing if this would have held some weight and merit had the edge rushers did the on the field drills for the defensive line, then the linebackers come on the field, do the linebacker run their 40s, then do their drills, and then you bring the edge rushers back on the field for the conversion drills. Then that'd be one thing because now you got to re-warm up all that stuff. Okay, fine. It's still garbage because other guys have to do that, and they're not complaining, but you have your right to do whatever you see fit. Whatever's best for you, you do that, right? But that's not what happened, okay? The edge rushers did their on-the-field work, and right thereafter, they transitioned right into linebacker drills. There was no pause. There was no break in the action. They went straight from on-the-field work, doing the same drills the defensive linemen did, to straight into linebacker drills. There was no break there. There was no reason for him to use that as an excuse. Oh, I want to do it all at the same time. I don't want to have to re-warm up all that stuff. That was a bogus excuse. Daniel Jeremiah pretty much called him out on it in the on the telecast saying, "I look, that's not, that doesn't really fly with me, but whatever." It didn't look good for a guy that already had a little bit of, negative vibes coming from some of the comments he had made, and then the whole not, people. It's the NFL community is weird because they always talk about compete, compete, compete. That's their favorite word. They want to see you compete. And I think it's bogus because we're having this conversation. His ass is still going to be a top 3 pick more likely than not. I don't see him falling out of the top 3 because of anything that transpired at the combine over the weekend or anything that's being said about his motor. At the end of the day, I think he's still going to be the 3rd pick in the draft to the Houston Texans. So we'll see what happens. But, the NFL community is weird because you give them anything to chew on, anything negative, and they'll take it and they'll spin it into something else and they'll start piling things on top of it. So it started with his motor and that he's not competing on every snap. So now he's not a competitor, by some NFL scouts standards. Then you come to the combine and you refuse to do the on-the-field drills with your peers, with the Trayvon Walkers and the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world. Now, all of a sudden, you don't want to compete. You're afraid to compete. So, Willie McGinnis had to go to bat for him there. I don't think this was a afraid to compete thing. I just think he was like, I don't want to do it today. I don't feel like doing it. I'll just wait till my pro day. But if that's the case, just tell everybody that. Just say, hey, and then you could surprise them and do the drills on the field if you felt like it. But he should have gone in, told everybody, I'm just going to run the 40. I'll save everything else for my pro day. And everybody would have been okay with that because guys do it all the time. They would have been disappointed that he didn't run or that he didn't do the on-the-field work, but they would get over it. This happens all the time. But he lied to everyone and then kind of just like, hey, it is what it is. That didn't sit well with a lot of people. It won't sit well with a lot of people. It doesn't matter. He's not getting out of the top 5 of the NFL draft. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the linebackers to wrap up day number 3. This is a group that is very interesting. Normally, linebackers is one of those positions that you don't have to get a guy in the first round to end up with a stud. Really, you usually don't get the stud in the first round. It's usually the guy that's the 2nd or the 3rd round pick that turns out to be one of the best players in the league. Once upon a time, you had to get the first round linebacker. When it was Patrick Willis, when it was Luke Kuechly, you had to get the guy in the top 15 of the draft to have him be a stud. Now you look at the best of the best in the league. You're talking about the maniac Darius Leonard. That's a 2nd round pick. You're talking about the linebacker in San Francisco. That's a 3rd round pick. And you just keep going down the list. And it's a lot of guys that weren't selected in the first round. That said, Devin White, 1st round pick, and you're looking for that type of athlete. You're looking for that guy that explodes and pops off the screen at you. And there are some guys in this group that they look like they can do that. So I want to start, however, with a guy that doesn't belong with this group. And I told you the combine, it's weird. The NFL, they do weird shit sometimes where they lump guys in with the wrong group. Now, I know Jermaine Johnson II can stand up as an outside linebacker, which is why they probably put him with this group. He's athletically gifted enough to drop into coverage and do all the things that linebackers have to do. And if you play in a 3-4 defense, he can stand up as an outside linebacker. He can drop into coverage, do all the things you like a linebacker to do. However, he's more of an edge rusher. I want to put his hand in the dirt. I want him going after the quarterback. I see him as that kind of a player. I don't see him as a guy that you're dropping into coverage. He's not an off-the-ball linebacker. I didn't think he belonged with this group, but whatever the case may be, Jermaine Johnson was with this group. He ran a 4.58 40 at 6'5", 254. Right now, he's my favorite player in this draft class. I love Jermaine Johnson. I love his game. I think he's the next big thing as a pass rusher. If he puts it all together, this guy has star written all over him. And so I just wanted to make mention of him because he was with this linebacker group, really should have been with the edge rushers, but doesn't matter. He still stood out amongst this group, was one of the, as a matter of fact, he was one of the faster times in this group at 6'5", 254. And again, we're talking about linebackers. Most of these guys are in the 230s. You may get a guy occasionally in 240s, and every now and again a guy in the 250s, but he was faster than most of these guys. Another guy that didn't really belong with this group, but again, edge rusher. If you play a 3-4 defense, he can stand up, but he should have been with the defensive linemen, the edge rushers in particular, is Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. This guy's 6'4", 261. Another one of these guys I hadn't heard a ton about going into this process, but he showed up and showed out athletically at the combine. 4.53 40. I thought he looked explosive, similar to what I said about one of the edge rushers, just looking explosive in every single drill that he did, even though it didn't always look as fluid. Boye Mafe looks like another one of these guys, similar to last year with Kwity Paye. One of those guys is just – Kwity Paye has a different body type. He's a bigger dude. But Boye Mafe seems to be one of those types of players where you go, he's super raw. He's still figuring it out. And if he ever does, look out. At 6'4", 261, he's twitchy. He's explosive. The 40 time tells you that. His movement skills tell you that. If they are, and when you watch some of the things he was able to do, which I've already done, because he was so impressive, he's another one of those guys that gets you excited that you say, hey, I'm willing to take a chance on this guy early in the draft because the upside is potentially through the roof. So he's another guy that really stood out to me that should have been with the edge rushers. He was with the linebackers. But let's get to the linebackers because they themselves were impressive. Let's start with a guy that I wasn't overly impressed with throughout the day, that I thought I would have been more impressed with, and that was Devin Lloyd. Here's a guy that people were mentioning as a top 10 pick, this, that, and the third. This guy's 6'3", 237, ran a 4.66. Now, speed isn't everything, especially when it comes to the linebacker position, because if you have instincts, if you have know-how, you can play faster than your 40 times suggests. And I'm assuming that's the case with Devin Lloyd. You put the tape on, and you see a guy that's out there, getting to the football, making plays, pick six here, pick six there. So I thought the comp for him was very apt. And if he is that guy, then who gives a shit? He ran a 4.66, right? Which was Darius Leonard, another guy that didn't test well at the combine in terms of his speed, ran a 4.7. A lot of people are shocked to find out that he ran a 4.7, which is part of the reason he was a second-round pick and not a first-round pick. Darius Leonard was. That said, if you watch the tape, you knew Darius Leonard was a first-round pick and that the NFL was tripping, right? Anybody that was listening, I kept telling them this dude is a first-round pick. And so that could be the case with Devin Lloyd, But here's the thing with Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard at the combine ran a 4.7, and he was right around 200 and I think 32 pounds when he ran that 4.7. Darius Leonard plays at 215 at middle linebacker, if you can believe that. It's crazy. But Darius Leonard plays at 215. So he's probably running a lot faster than 4.7 because he's not as heavy anymore. He's 17 pounds lighter than he was at the combine. I don't think that's what Devin Lloyd is. I don't think he's a guy that, played at a much lighter weight and is faster, at 224 pounds than he is at 237. I think he's a 237-pound linebacker, and that's just how fast he runs. We'll see. If he anticipates well and just knows how to play the position, all of that will be a moot point, and he'll go out and he'll ball, and he'll end up being one of the better linebackers in football. I just wasn't overly impressed with him athletically throughout the day as much as I thought I would be. Outside of that, I thought this was an overall strong group, deeper than I anticipated it to be. Leo Chenal, 6'3", 250, Wisconsin linebacker, ran a 4.53. I got respect for Big Ten linebackers, especially ones that come from Wisconsin, because they've done a really good job of pumping out these Wisconsin linebackers over the years. And so when you get one like Leo Chenal that can actually run a 4.53, that's a blazing time. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Everybody's time seems a little bit inflated, but still, he was moving. I watched him. He was moving. So I thought he moved well throughout the day. Another guy that I looked at and said, okay, that could be a solid pick for someone in the third round or so. He'll be a day 2 pick more likely than not. Chad Muma was a guy that I think a lot of people were falling in love with. 6'3", 239-pound linebacker out of Wyoming. I ran a 4.63. I thought the movement skills were solid, but he wasn't overly impressive. I was expecting to be more impressed walking away from Chad Muma with all of the hype that people were building him up with. I thought he was okay. I wasn't blown away. I didn't walk away saying, oh my God, got to have that guy. See, there were some guys last year like Nick Bolton that I walked away watching their tape and saying, okay, no, this guy, there was no combine last year, but I walked away saying this guy, I take him in the first round. Ended up going in the second round, and he had a really strong rookie campaign. I was expecting something like that from Chad Muma. I didn't really see it. Thought he was solid. And again, I don't think he did anything to hurt his draft stock. I just don't think he did anything to help it at the combine, on the field, that is. Channing Thibodeaux out of Georgia, one of the lesser known linebackers. They had so many guys on that defense. 6'2", 230, ran a 4.47. He looked a little stiff and mechanical to me, but he can move. That is for sure. The better of those linebackers was Quay Walker. I thought he was really good. 6'4", 241, also out of Georgia. 4'5", 240. I thought he was outstanding throughout the day. I thought his movement skills were great, and he looks the part. So did DeMarco Jackson out of App State, 6'1", 233 pounds. He ran a 4.55. Another one of these guys you add to the mix as another off-the-ball linebacker that can run. So I thought there were a lot of guys in this group, but the ones that stood out the most to me were Christian Harris out of Alabama, 6 feet, 226, ran a 4.44, that Moses Malone 4.44. I thought he was phenomenal. And if not for the last guy that I'm going to mention, he would have been the best linebacker on the day for me. I think he solidified himself as a first-round pick, did Christian Harris. Not that there was any doubt, but I think he's going to go off the board in the first round. With his talents, his ability to run, he looked good, man. And the tape, everything he did on the field is backed up by what's on tape, what's on the video. So he looked the part, and he was outstanding. But he was only outdone by one guy. And if you ask me, the biggest winner of the combine, the guy that made himself the most money, I talked about Sky Moore and what he did in day number 1 and how he made himself some money, boosting himself up probably a full round in the draft. I think another guy that may have done the same exact thing is Troy Anderson of Montana State. Again, didn't know who the hell this guy was going into this process. Man, I was blown away, absolutely floored by his athleticism, his skill set, his movement skills. And you start talking to me about guys that I loved coming out, like Logan Wilson out of Wyoming, and you tell me that Troy Anderson is similar in his game, where he's got tremendous ability to drop into coverage. He's a tackling machine. And then you tell me at 6'3", 243, you're running a 4.42. Excuse me? Come again? Okay. And I watched this guy. He was the easiest mover, the most athletically gifted and comfortable out in space of any of these linebackers in day number 3. I walked away saying, this is a guy that could easily sneak into the back end of the first round. More likely than not, he's a second-round pick. This guy looks to be that guy that people are going to sleep on in the first round. He's going to get picked in the second round and turn out to be one of the best linebackers in this year's draft class. Similar to the way Logan Wilson was slept on, didn't get picked to the third round by the Cincinnati Bengals, and now he's playing at a very high level at the NFL, in the NFL right now, and making a lot of people feel stupid for passing on him in the first 2 rounds. I wouldn't be shocked if Troy Anderson is one of those guys where we look back and say, how in the hell didn't he get picked in the first round? It was funny. Rich kept asking, how in the hell did Jonathan Taylor not go in the first round? I told anybody that would listen, he was the best running back in that year's draft class. He's a first-round running back. Everybody wanted to go to I forgot who the other running back was that went ahead of him, but I said Jonathan Taylor, he's their man. He's who you want in the first round. And he ended up being the second back taken. And now everyone's asking, how in the hell? Same thing with Alvin Kamara. I said the same thing with Kamara. I'm telling you, this Troy Anderson kid, this is the guy that everyone's going to sleep on, and he's going to end up being the best linebacker or one of the best linebackers from this draft class. And everyone's going to be asking, how in the hell did he not get picked in the first round? I said all of that, and I haven't watched enough tape to bang the table for this dude, to be able to go to bat and say, he's that dude. I'm just telling you, I know talent when I see it. I watched him on the field, and I'm saying to myself, this guy can move with the best of them. And you know when you see it, the speed is there, the awareness is there. I look at some of the numbers. I'm going to go watch him because I want to see it with my own eyes to confirm what I saw on the field at the combine. But I walked away saying this guy made himself the most money in Indy this weekend. Of all positions, to me, Troy Anderson opened up. And maybe everyone's eyes were already open, and I just got to the party late. That's very, very possible. But I'm telling you, if you hadn't gotten to the party yet, just like me, and you were showing up late, this guy knocked your damn socks off. So really impressed with Troy Anderson. And that guy looks legit. So that's day 3 of the combine. We then transition into day number 4. Before we do that, I think we got some super chats. I don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to knock these super chats out real quick, and then we'll get to day number 4 to wrap up this combine coverage. Brayton Nicholas, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Brayton Nicholas writes, what's up with my Jay Sanders showing up at 228? Oh, it's crazy you brought that up. We just talked about that. I have no idea why he thought that was a good idea. I don't know who told him, who got in his ear and said, hey, my Jay, you might want to drop some weight and show up a lot faster than you were at the Senior Bowl. Maybe he got his ass kicked at the Senior Bowl, at 241, and he felt like in order to have an advantage, he needed to be faster and drop some weight. But this wasn't the time to do that, And again, I think I know why he did what he did. I think this was all about him wanting to be faster, but he didn't run a 4.39. He didn't run a 4.47. He ran a 4.67. So the means didn't justify the end. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what his problem was and why he didn't do that, but it is what it is. Thank you for that super chat. B. Smitty, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Thank you for the super chat. B. Smitty. If I saw a comment, I would have read it, but I don't see a comment from you. But thank you for the super chat, B. Smitty. Got another super chat here. This one is from GearCell1. Thank you for the super chat, GearCell1. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, with the front office the Commanders have, they would draft left tackle and try to convert him to safety. Tragic. Ron needs to stop wearing mellow yellow biker shorts with a Prince bath robe. Sad. Look, I know some of you aren't feeling the current regime, and I, for whatever reason, I don't know why you could. I don't see how you could hate these guys yet and dislike the job that they're doing, especially the guys in the front office. If you don't love Jason Wright, that's fine. He's been a part of some mishaps already in his young, president career here in Washington. But even some of the mishaps he's had aren't enough to turn you against him to the point where he's got to go. And again, he doesn't impact anything that happens on the field. The staff of Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney, they literally just got here. They've been here a calendar year now. So you don't have enough to judge them off of to say that they're doing a terrible job. Ron hasn't done anything egregious to this point either. So I know there's been a lot of criticism of this group. Some of it deserved, but I don't think that we should be overly criticizing them yet. I told you I'm going to give them, and I can't tell anybody else how to feel or what, how much time you should give them. I'm going to give them this offseason to get their feet wet and see exactly what kind of direction they want to go in. Last year, again, as I said, Martin Mayhew, Marty Herney, they essentially were working on the fly. They got here and they had to just jump in and pick up, essentially where the staff already, was. They had to just jump in and catch up, play catch up, in the offseason. They've been here a year now. They know the roster. They know what it needs. And so I want to see what they decide to do free agency wise. I want to see what they do in the draft. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not ready to say Ron's got on mellow yellow biker shorts yet. I'm not ready to do that yet. Okay. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. So let's get to day number 4. I generally don't mention specialists during the combine. Why should we? I mean, you can get a guy, and I told you, I don't really care when you take a specialist, as long as you do it 5th round or later. I got no issues with it. But this punter out of San Diego State, Matt Ariza, he's 6'1", 200 pounds. He looks like the next big thing as a kicker. And the reason I say that is because you rarely get a guy that can do all 3. You rarely get a guy that can pull the trifecta off: punt, place kick, and kickoff return duties. You rarely get a guy that can do that. I mean, how many teams have we seen, have their field goal kicker pull a hammy or, have something happen, a groin injury during the game, and they're screwed. Their punter cannot kick field goals. Now they got to go for 2. And if they get in the field goal range, they're screwed because they don't have a guy that can put it through the uprights. Well, if you have Matt Ariza on your team, not only can he punt the football, they literally showed this guy punting at the combine. He punted the ball from his own 20. It landed at the 5, and it checked up, and it was down by a guy back there at like the 2. We're talking about a 75-yard punt, folks, in the air with hang time. Not that shit where you're out kicking your coverage and you're about to give up a 82-yard kickoff punt return for a touchdown. That shit had hang time, and it went 75 yards in the air. Oh, by the way, he can make 50-yard field goals. And of course, if he can do all of that, he can be your kickoff specialist too. They said he was a weapon at San Diego State. I'll take their advice and their word for it. I'm not going to do any research on it. But if you're kicking the ball like that, I'm pretty sure there were times where the San Diego State Aztecs went 3 and out on offense after starting the possession at their own 19. This guy's catching the ball at his own 7 and proceeds to kick it to the other team's 22-yard line and force a fair catch, and now he's just flipped field position. That's a weapon, folks. Okay. Someone's going to get him. I can't see a way where a draft pick isn't spent on him. The question isn't if he's going to get drafted, it's where. Enough specialist talk, though. Okay. Let's get to the DBs in day number 4. So, corners and safeties combined for 16 sub 4.4 40s. I'll say it again because it doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical, but this entire weekend has been nonsensical, which is why I have a question about the timing mechanism and the way they've been doing things this year. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem like it's synchronized, but whatever. 16 sub 4.4s in the DB group between corners and safeties. 2 of those 16 were sub 4.3s. Okay. So these guys were running. And again, let me reiterate this. I don't necessarily buy all these times, right? But these guys are fast. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. So like Kalon Barnes, who ran the 40 in 4.23, he's a track star. He holds the record for the fastest time in Texas track history. So trust me, he's fast. Okay. So when they say he ran a 4.23, I believe them. He's 5'11", 183, and I actually thought he moved exceptionally well during the on-the-field drills. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to speed, a lot of times these guys turn out not to be very good in the NFL. So I'm still waiting for a guy that runs a ridiculous 40. When they put up the fastest combine times and you look at those names, boy, are there a lot of guys that are in the NFL graveyard as corners and wide receivers over the years. Names that you remember them from combine lore, and then they get to the NFL and you never hear from them again. So I'm hoping that Kalon Barnes isn't one of those players. He looked good on the field. I thought his movement skills were excellent. I thought he caught the football well. So maybe there's a chance. We'll see. He's fast as shit. I know that much. Okay. And he is a great representation of what this whole weekend was. Just a bunch of dudes that are fast as hell. And speaking of fast as hell, Tariq Woolen. Wow. 6'4", 205 pounds out of UTSA. Ran a 4.26 at 6'4", 205. Yikes! Zoinks! Scoob! Normally, I see something like that, I get excited, mouth starts to water a bit, and I start salivating, pause. However, I watched him on the field. This guy is as tightly wound as it gets. Okay, this dude is super tight, hips tight, ankles tight. I mean, he's more tight than a can of compressed air. I mean, there's a lot of work to do there. You know, look, that's a lot to work with, though. You know, with that size, and this is a guy that is converting from wide receiver, so he's super raw. Okay, super raw. So, and you can see it. You know, he's 6'4", so it's hard for him to get down in his stance and backpedal. But, you know, the change of direction, flipping his hips, that's all. I told you, when you come to DBs, you're looking for, you know, 2 or 3 things. You know, can you catch? That's secondary, because even if you can't catch, if you're there and you're breaking up shit, we'll take that. But we you know, we want you to pick it off. If you get an opportunity to take it away, we want you to take it away. But that's third on the list. Second on the list is how you transition. And you flip your hips. You know what I mean? Can you move? And then the first thing is, can you move? Can you run? Well, you know, because if you can't run, then what are we talking about? He can't move right now. I wasn't overly impressed with his movement skills, but again, that could be for somebody else to say, hey, let me get my hands on him. But he's tight right now. But boy, can he run, and he's big. Height, weight, speed specimen. Check, check, and check. Someone else that's got some size on him that can run that I was impressed with was Zion McCollum of Sam Houston State, 6'2", 199, so pretty much 6'2", 200 pounds, ran a 4.33 40. That's a legit 4.3 40, and that was some legit movement skills, you know, that he brought to the table with that 4.33. So I walked away super impressed with Zion McCollum, and I want to see more of Zion McCollum after the afternoon that he turned in. Another guy that I was super impressed with in day number 4, Kobe Durant out of South Carolina State, 5'10", 180-pound corner that ran a 4.38 40. Obviously, he's going to have to make a trek inside more likely than not at 180, but you never know. I looked at him and his movement skills and the way he was able to make plays on the ball, go up and attack the football, change of direction, plant and go much faster than slow. Everything looked good. It looked clean. It checked. I want to see what he looks like, how physical he is as a tackler at 180. You start to doubt some of those things, but he looked good, man. He looked damn good, did Kobe Durant. I hope he can play some nickel. I hope he can play inside. Not everybody, I told you, inside is a totally different beast and animal. Not everybody's built to do it. Man, I hope he can play inside, because if he can, there will be some intrigue surrounding Kobe Durant. If he can't, and he's strictly a boundary guy, I always say, I'm going to give you a chance to prove you can until you can't, you know. That's a lot of talent there. That's a lot of talent there. I hope he can play inside. Kaiir Elam out of Florida, as we get to some of these bigger corners. 6'1", 191, ran a 4.39 40. He's one of these guys that's intriguing because he's a build-up speed guy. You can see it, and Daniel Jeremiah talked about that, but you can see it in all the drills too. He started slow, but as he built up speed and started to go, you could see him, pick up speed. I liked his movement skills for a guy his size. He's intriguing. And, Florida is a factory at the cornerback position. They churn out these corners year in, year out. So I'm intrigued by Kaiir, Elam out of Florida. Thought he had a solid day throughout. Trent McDuffie out of Washington, 5'11", 193, ran a Moses Malone 4.44. I thought he was outstanding. I just thought he came in, checked every box off. If there was any doubt about this guy's ability, athleticism, anything that people might have been questioning going in, I think he answered every single question. He was probably going to be a first-round pick before the combine. He's definitely a first-round pick after the combine. I thought Trent McDuffie was as good as any of these corners that performed in day number 4. Kobe Bryant, is the guy opposite of Sauce Gardner at Cincinnati. Won the Jim Thorpe Award for the best cornerback in the nation. 6'1", 193, ran a 4.5, 4.40. Thought he showed off, solid movement skills. For his size, that 4.51 is a solid time, because when you're 6'1" and you got wingspan, you make up for some of that ground that you can't cover with speed, with length. So I thought he was solid. I wasn't blown away by him. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't blown away by Sauce Gardner. I'm not the biggest Sauce Gardner fan. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I think he's good. I think he's tremendous. And at 6'3", 190, there's a lot to work with there. The 4.41, I question that. I didn't see 4.41. I saw like 4.48, which is fine. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anything, if that second number, and Daniel Jeremiah said it best, that second number, was a 4. The last number didn't matter. All right. As long as that second number was a 4, didn't really matter what came after that. So with his length, honestly, if his best time was the 4.5, 1 or 4.52 that we thought he ran initially with his first run, if that were his time, would anybody have thought any less of him? I mean, with that size and length at 6'3", I think people still would have been feeling good about him. I'm not the biggest Sauce Gardner, fan. He's got to win me over. I'm just not blown away. I wasn't blown away by his field work. I thought he was okay. I thought he was super deliberate in his movement skills. I thought there were drills where I wanted to see more speed out of him, and he seemed to be more calculated. Seems like a good dude. Seems like someone that, is super confident, which is what you want, especially at the cornerback position. Never gave up a touchdown in college. I still think a lot of that has to do. And look, I don't care where you play at. To not give up a touchdown speaks volumes, because even though he played in the AAC, still, so you get someone get lucky and give up a touch. It's just so easy to give up at least one touchdown, to give up none. That speaks volumes about his talent. But I'm not the biggest fan, but I thought he was solid. He didn't do anything to hurt his stock. As a matter of fact, with that 4.41, he might have elevated his stock. At one point they were talking about on the telecast, could he go number 1 overall? I don't see it happening, but he definitely helped himself by running that 40. So the guy that I was most impressed with is the guy that I was super impressed with at the Senior Bowl And he just continues to impress me because everything he does is a million miles per second. And he doesn't lose any technique, and he doesn't lose. He's not out of control. He's not OC while he's doing it, but he's going 110 miles an hour. And that's Roger McQuarrie out of Auburn. Again, I told you I'm a little biased towards SEC players because they just run the gauntlet. You know, whatever you're doing, you're going up against NFL caliber players on a, every other week basis. I'm not one of these guys that every week they're going up because you play out of conference games, you play South Alabama State, you're going to mop them. And every team in the SEC isn't good. Okay. Vanderbilt stinks. Okay. So it's not every week that you're going up against, NFL players and tremendous talent, but most weeks you are. And he did that at Auburn. And I thought the 4.5 flat that he ran, plenty fast for me with the way that he plays at 100 miles per hour at 5'11", 190. The knock on him is he big enough to play outside? Because he's feisty enough, most certainly feisty enough to play outside. Can he hold his own outside with some of those big boys? When they want to get physical with him and they want to lay hands on him, because he's a feisty dude. He'll get up in your mix, make you uncomfortable. He'll lay hands on you. But, sometimes you lay your hands on the wrong big receiver and shit could go wrong for you very quickly. So, or you come up, challenge a dude at 4.5 40, and that dude's a 4.41, you can get your ass cooked at the line of scrimmage. So, there are some questions about his long distance speed. But man, I love me some Roger McQuarrie, and that love grew as I watched him at the combine. I thought he did everything exceptionally well and exceptionally fast. And I like guys that play the game at game. I like guys that participate at game speed. There's some guys out there that they're the ball is coming down and they're shifting, they're downshifting because they're scared. This guy's running through the football, because as a DB, there'll never be an opportunity for you to downshift to try to pick a pass off. That receiver knows where he's going. You don't know where he's going. You're reacting to him. And so there's no downshifting. If you want to pick, you got to jump in front of that thing a million miles per second and pick it off. That wide receiver's not going to just say, hey, you can have it. You got to go take it. So these guys downshifting because they want to make sure they catch it, that's bullshit. I love Roger McQuarrie because you don't get any of that. So anyway, I thought he was outstanding. So him and Zion McCollum were my two standouts, along with Kobe Durant, who I thought was outstanding. And remember, this group is super deep. They're super talented. They're super fast. And we didn't even mention one of the better ones in the group because he didn't perform due to injury, the LSU corner, Derek Stingley Jr. So this group, super deep, super talented. I think you had another corner from Clemson, I believe, in this mix that didn't perform either. So this is a super deep group, super talented, and they showcased their athleticism with their performance in day number 4 of the combine. Then you get to the safety group. I was probably the most impressed athletically with this group than any other group over the weekend at the combine, because the safety position is one that is super intriguing because as the NFL continues to evolve, this is one of the positions that continues to evolve with it out of necessity. Because tight ends are getting bigger, stronger, faster, because the safety position, it's calling on you to do more now. There used to be a distinction between a box safety and a free safety, and the two usually didn't intermingle. Now in today's NFL, because of the RPOs, because of the athleticism that teams are putting on the field at all times, because teams are spreading you out with 4 and 5 wide, it is imperative that you have safeties that can rock and roll. And it is imperative that your safety come up and help in run support, but can also run 45 yards down the field step for step with the tight end or running back out of the backfield. It is imperative that your safety can turn and flip his hips like a DB and locate the football. But it's also imperative that your safety can come down and make a tackle and blow up a wide receiver screen. These guys are getting bigger. They're getting stronger. but most importantly, they're getting faster. Some of these guys look like corners. I mean, seriously, there are a couple of guys in this safety group that they get drafted, and I'm not sure that they won't be transitioned over to the cornerback position. One of those guys is Percy Butler out of Louisiana, 6 feet, 194, ran a 4.36. I thought he moved outstanding throughout the day. I thought his movement skills were outstanding. And I'm watching him and I'm saying, you sure you're not a corner? But you need guys like that at safety. You know what I'm saying? Like the game is changing to where, but 6 feet, 194 sounds like a corner. So I'm not sure somebody doesn't take Percy Butler and say, bro, we playing you at corner, which I don't think he would have a problem with, but he's classified as a safety. Another guy that looks like a corner, can play nickel, but is technically a safety is Daxton Hill, or Dax Hill out of Michigan, 6'1" or 6 feet 191. So again, kind of little on the little side for a safety, but he ran a 4.38, can cover his ass off, and I thought his movement skills were exceptional throughout the day. Another one of these guys that solidified his status as a first-round pick in the draft with his movement skills on the day, and that 4.38 definitely helps his case to be a top 20 pick in this year's draft class. Nick Cross out of Maryland, 6 feet 212, ran a 4.34 40. I was impressed with him, man. You know, I wanted to just disregard him because there are a lot of guys that run super fast, and you know, that's cool. I told you a lot of these guys that run super fast don't turn out to be great at the next level. And so I just wanted to disregard him, like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know, a lot of times the first dude in these groups, he started off with a 4.34 40 or a 4.31, and you're like, shit, okay, is this what this group's gonna be? This how y'all feel? And that guy would stink on the field drills, right? So I thought Nick Cross was gonna be another one of those dudes. Oh, okay, cool. He ran fast. That's cute. And every drill I looked at him and I said, damn, that was a good ass rep, Nick. Damn, that's some good movement skills. Damn, Nick, that was some good ball skills. And I couldn't help myself. I had to write him down. He was impressive. And he's a guy that I'll have to do some work on, Nick Cross out of Maryland. Quentin Lake, the son of Carnell Lake. For those of you who are of a certain age, you remember him, Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback. Played for many years in the league. This is his son, 6'1", 201 pounds, ran a 4.59 40 at the safety position. I thought the two guys that ran the slowest times at the safety position were two of the more impressive in the on the field drills, in Quentin Lake and Kyle Hamilton. We'll get to Hamilton a little bit later on, as you know, he's the number one safety prospect in this year's draft class. But Quentin Lake, I'll tell you this right now, the most natural hands of any of these safeties, and I don't know if it's close. I think Kyle Hamilton and maybe Jalen Petrie or Petrie are the two that may rival him. But Quentin Lake was just snatching the ball out of the air. You go watch his gauntlet drill. He caught those footballs like he was mad at the fact that he didn't run faster than the 40 or something. Like he was snatching it out of there and tossing it away. You know, he knows football. His dad played the game, so the bloodlines are there. I was impressed with him. Thought he had a really good day overall. You know, Lewis Seen, safety out of Georgia, was trying to convince anybody that would listen that he's not just a box safety or a physical presence that'll come up and thump you, that he could run and that he could be a rock and roll type of free safety that can play the back end, 40, 50 yards down the field if need be, but also come up and hit somebody in the mouth. Well, he proved that with his 40 time and his movements throughout the day. 6'2", 199, ran a 4.37 40. I think statement made. Okay, you're not just a box safety if you're running that damn fast. And he was one of the big time players for that Georgia defense on the back end, and he went out and showed and proved at the combine. And I think he elevated his draft stock exponentially with the way that he performed in day number 4. Let's get to my 2 best performers in the safety group, and then we'll get to Kyle Hamilton. So Dane Belton out of Iowa, 6'1", 205, 4'4", 40, was phenomenal. Damn near flawless throughout the day. He was outstanding. And everything that he did, he just made it look effortless. And he caught the ball well. Every rep that he had, I just said to myself, damn, that was the best rep that I've seen out of that group. Damn, that was the best. I just kept saying that over and over again. He just kept stacking quality reps, and his movement skills were off the charts. I just thought he was outstanding. And so he's the guy that I have my eye on as a second-round pick right now. Dude had 5 interceptions in 2021. And you can see the ball skills. You can see the movement skills. Anybody that can take it away at the rate that he did last year and showcase the athleticism with the size and the movement skills is a guy that I think is going to find himself hearing his name called early on day number 2, if not late day 1. I don't see him sneaking into the first round, but I do see him being a hot commodity come second round of this draft. I thought he was outstanding in day number 4 of the combine. Equally as impressive, if not more so, was Jalen Petrie out of Baylor. Now, I have to knock him. He did not run a 40. I don't like when guys don't run the 40 because that means you're hiding something from me. He did everything on the field. There's nothing wrong with him. I can't confirm nor deny that, but if something was wrong with him, I couldn't tell because his ass ran everything on the field to perfection. He caught everything. He was as clean and crisp of a performer in terms of his movement skills as anybody on the field. Daniel Jeremiah couldn't stop gushing and raving about him, and for good reason. He was outstanding, but he did not run a 40, which makes me feel like he's not going to run very fast. But if you've got instincts and you know how to play the game of football, I don't care about your speed. Go look at Tyrann Mathieu's 40 time and tell me that you give a shit that he ran a 4.6, when he was coming out of LSU. You don't care because the guy is a marvel back there in terms of his intellect and his ability to anticipate and just win some of those mental battles with the quarterback. So Jalen Petrie seems to be one of those types of players, but he didn't run the 40. So I gotta knock him down a peg for that because I don't know how fast he is. But him and Dane Belton to me were among the best throughout the day. Now let's get to Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame safety. I remember a lot of Washington fans were asking me, did I think he could get to 11? Do I think he get to 11? I said, no, he's not going to get to 11. They're asking me, is this guy better than Sean Taylor? This, that. I'm like, no, he's not close. And he proved it with his 40 time. The 4.59, he's faster than that. Let me first say that. If you watch this 40, guy was zigging and zagging all over the place. I could see it live that he damn near ran into one of the things that, measures your 10-second split. He almost ran into it and knocked it down. He was so far over. So he'll run faster, at his pro day if he decides to do so. But I thought he would run faster than what he did. The 4.59 at his size at 6'4", 220, nobody's going to kill him for a 4.59. Again, he's got plenty of speed and range, as you've seen, to get to wherever he needs to on the field. I think he's faster than 4.59. But let me tell you this. Despite the 40 time, his on-the-field work was some of the best of the day. So he may not have shown you what you wanted to see in the 40, and I think a lot of that had to do with his technique running the 40 and less about his ability to run in a straight line. But the guy had a 38-inch vertical. He had a 10-11 broad, and the on the field work was outstanding. So I think he solidified himself as a top 10 pick. And for anybody that thinks that his stock is going to just deflate because of this, you're sadly mistaken. And he will be taken in the top 10 of this draft. I don't see him finding his way out of the top 10, but I can tell you this much. You're a Washington fan out there. You're praying that at his Notre Dame Pro Day, he doesn't run the 40. He just says to hell with it, or he runs it and it's worse than what it was at the combine. Some teams start to sleep on him and he falls to 11, because at that point, I don't think there's anything to discuss unless you love a quarterback. You take Kyle Hamilton, but I just don't see that scenario playing itself out. I see him running at his pro day, running a 4.48, putting all of that to bed, and ended up being the 4th or 5th or 6th pick in the draft, and we will move on. So I don't see him getting out of the top 10. Even if he stuck on this time and didn't run again, he's still going in the top 10. He's that good. He's that talented. And it wasn't his best in terms of the 40, but everything else checked out for Kyle Hamilton. So that was day number 4. And my overall thoughts on the combine. I will give you my overarching theme, who I thought was the best, who I thought helped themselves. And I kind of told you that already, but we'll kind of wrap up the combine and put a bow on it on the podcast on Monday. So make sure you tune in for that. But I can tell you this much. This draft is super deep. We'll get into that even more on the podcast on Monday. But this draft is so deep at almost every position except quarterback. Isn't that crazy? Let's get to the comment section. I think I got a few super chats, and then we will get out of here. I've kept you long enough on this combine recap. So let's see. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any comments. I got a super chat here from my guy, John Perez. Thank you for the super chat, JP. Greatly appreciate you, writes Lou. I swear this draft may be the best ever in terms of speed. Everybody is fast as shit. It seems that way. Again, I dispute how fast everyone is. This track at Indy didn't just all of a sudden get faster. This is the same field they've been running at, for the last 8 years. Lucas Oil Stadium has been open for 8, 9, 10 years now, maybe. Something along those lines. And they've been running there ever since. And I just think they've changed some things. I know, like, NFL Network's changed their hand timer. I don't know how they're gauging all of this and, what they're using, but I just know the numbers were way off this year, more so than they usually are. Like, when we get official times, it's usually not a 10th of a second off. It's usually not 800ths of a second off. It's usually like 1 or 200ths of a second. Like, this year we were getting guys running 4.26 and then it comes back a 4.39. Like, that's stupid. That shouldn't happen. We shouldn't be that far off. Okay, this thing is done mechanically. It's not like these are all hand times, and so there could be discrepancies and different things going on. This is done mechanically, so there shouldn't be as much of a discrepancy as there were. So, but you're right. These guys are fast. Okay, but this is kind of speaks to what I've said with respects to the athlete in general. The athlete is getting bigger, stronger, faster, period. With modern science and all of the different things that have come about, these guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster, period. And you're seeing that. Everybody's fast. As you said, everybody fast. And every position. It's crazy. Billy A., thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy. Billy A. writes, this is a draft for depth. Hope Ron Smart and trades back for more picks. Want Quay, Damone, Anderson in rounds 2 through 3. Need safeties, Mike Cut, Landon, and Shays. Want Nick Cross, Dax Hill, Kirby Joseph, Petre in the 2nd to 4th round. Some of those guys will be there. Dax Hill probably won't be there in the second round. Petre, depending on what he runs at his Baylor Pro Day, may not be there in the fourth round. Cross will be there in rounds 2 through 4. So will Kirby Joseph. I thought he actually was somewhat solid throughout the day with a little bit of size as well. Shays is done. Now, Landon may be back. We'll see. But Shays he's done. He's got legal issues to deal with, and I don't think he'll be back playing football anytime soon. So we'll see what they decide to do. I think you're right. This is a draft for depth purposes because, as Daniel Jeremiah put it, you don't have to have a first-round pick or even a second-round pick, as in the case of the Rams. You don't have to have a first-round pick to feel like you got to get to get something good. The Ravens, they have 2/3, and I think he said fourth-round picks or something like that. You can do damage in those rounds with all the depth that exists in this draft. I like to talk about spillage all the time. You're going to get spillage in this draft just because there's a surplus of talented football players. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for the super chat, Billy A. Got a super chat here from B. Schmitty. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, B. Schmitty. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, and thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, B. Smitty? How at 11? You mad at that? Who's your guy?" I would be mad at How at 11. I think that's way too early for him. Even if they love him, I think that's still early for Sam Howell. But if that's their guy that they peg to be the future of the quarterback position in Washington, so be it. I mean, I'd be disappointed with the value of the pick, but that's them addressing the quarterback position. The key to the draft is trying not to take a guy before you have to take a guy. That's where the value aspect of it comes into play. That's the thing that I think Mike Mayock didn't really understand and didn't grasp all that well, is that you don't have to take a guy that you love just because you love him at a certain spot. You can just take a guy. You can take a guy when you should take a guy, and you've got to trust that he'll be there. And if he's not, then he wasn't meant for you. But if we took Sam Howell at 11, that's overdrafting for a need. That's how you get into trouble. When you start drafting for needs instead of drafting the best player available, that's how you get fired as a GM. That's how you get fired as a head coach. So, yeah, I'd be mad at that. And you're a member of the MOBB, so you know who my guy is, because I've done a video that you have exclusive access to as a member of the MOBB that you can watch. And I gave you my quarterback rankings, and I told you which one I thought was the best, that for me, the best fit for Washington and who I would want them to draft. So check that video out. You have access to it. You're a member of the Mob Squad. So that video is available to you. Let's see. Okay, that is the last super chat. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. It's late. I don't want to hold you any longer than I already have. But that's the 2022 NFL Scouting Combine in a nutshell. We've broken down all 4 days of the Combine. The biggest overarching theme of the weekend is that this draft class is athletically gifted, probably the fastest we've ever seen, and it's a deep draft, period. Not just this position or that position or this position or that. It's a deep draft class, period. So we'll expound upon that more tomorrow or today, if you're on the East Coast like myself, on the podcast. Look forward to talking about that among other topics. And there's some other things that have cropped up over the weekend that are going to be interesting topics of discussion. We will tackle all of them and then some on the podcast on Monday. So until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow afternoon for the Louie T Network podcast. Until then, you guys have a great night. God bless. Good night.